You're ready.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Texas State Board of Examiners of Professional Counselors. Today is November 12th, 2021 at 9:08 a.m. Christina and I are at Mission Control in Austin this morning. Everybody else is on meeting via Zoom. Let's go ahead and move on to our roll call. I'm Stephen Hallbauer, Public Member Chair. Dr. Taylor?
Dr. Christopher Taylor, Professional Member, Vice Chair.
Dr. Bradley?
You're on mute, Dr. Bradley.
Sorry, Dr. Bradley, one more.
Okay, Dr. Loretta Bradley. I'm a professional member and I'm coming to you from Lubbock, Texas.
Ms. Janie Stubblefield?
Janie Stubblefield, licensed professional counselor, professional member.
I hope you're feeling better soon. Ms. Brenda Campanone?
Brenda Compagnone, professional member.
Dr. Amuna?
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Leah Amuna, professional member.
And Pastor Roy Smith?
All right, I'm Pastor Roy Smith, public member.
Thanks, everybody. Christina, will you introduce staff?
Yes. So my name is Christina DeLuna. I'm the board administrator for the LPC board. We have Ms. Brenda Skiff, who is the executive director administrator. Brian Clark, who is the LPC board attorney currently. Patrick Hyde, who's general counsel for Bheck. Timothy Spears, the operations manager. And I'm not sure if Daryl Spinks is on here yet, but he will probably sometime within this meeting, and he's the executive director for Bheck.
I'll make a note of the excused absences for board members Vanessa Hall and Garrett Nairn. Christina, that should certify our quorum.
Correct.
Okay, moving on. Agenda item number 3. You should have the written minutes from our September meeting. Please take a moment to look these over. Yeah, I will need a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Chair, so moved.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Got a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Bradley. All in favor of approving the written minutes from the September meeting, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 All right, minutes are approved. If I understand correctly, these will be our last written minutes.
Correct.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we do have an application denial to discuss. Christina, will you present the case for us, please?
Yes, so this case was presented to the board at the last meeting. This is for LPC associate Juan Carrillo. The board did receive some additional information since that last meeting, so we wanted to present it to you all to review. Now, please note that I have provided you guys in the memo a breakdown of all of the hours and the time that Mr. Carrillo has been completing, been working on his LPC associate, as well as the most recent supervisor, Elizabeth Duran Lopez, has provided information related to any concerns that the previous supervisors may have had related to his, practice or whatnot. So with this information, it's being presented to you all to determine if you felt that there were still concerns. Mr. Carrillo, I do see him as one of the individuals here on the attendees. So if the board members want to speak to him, you can, if he's willing, but he is here if you all needed to speak with him. But do any board members have questions for me related to his case specifically?
Christina, could you give us just a brief explanation of what the difference was from when we reviewed this in
Sure.
September?
So the biggest change was the new supervisor provided, they provided the experience hours that Mr. Carrillo had completed. We didn't have the supervised experience documentation form at the time of the last meeting. We only had logs. So we didn't have the correct documentation that was needed in order to, really see where he was at, what additional hours he had completed and additional time he completed, as well as, again, the letter from the newest or the most recent supervisor. She, was able on that form, they have a section there, the supervisors do, where they can document any concerns that they had related to the LPC associate, and if they felt comfortable with that person being able to receive their upgrade and be able to be fully licensed. And Ms. Duran Lopez, noted that she went over all of the concerns that the previous supervisors had with Mr. Carrillo's practice, that she went over all of that, and that Mr. Carrillo has, done a lot better, and she has no concerns with him moving up to being fully licensed. And so again, he is here. If any of the board members have questions or specific questions for me, but he has gone above and beyond the hours that are required, as well as the time to be working under, as an LPC associate.
I believe he would like to be given 5 minutes to speak.
Okay. Do any of the board members have a question for me before we hear from him?
I do.
Yes.
As I was looking at that material, am I correct that he completed almost twice the required hours? Okay.
Correct.
Before we hear from the applicant, Patrick or Brian, do you have anything to add to the way that Christina laid it out?
I did not. No, I think she laid it out very well.
I agree. I don't have anything.
Okay, Christina, you can, if Mr. Carrillo would like to speak, he has been granted 5 minutes.
Christina, just to confirm real quick, the new supervisor stating all good.
Correct.
Those issues.
No concerns. No concerns.
Mediation plan is.
Can y'all hear me?
And it's good. Okay.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Carrillo, so you have 5 minutes. If you would like to address the board with anything you'd like to discuss with them.
Okay, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good, thanks. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Juan Carrillo. I'm addressing the needs of LPC Supervisor Tom Hammergoss. He employed me at the High Frontier, and where I acquired close to 2,000 intern hours. In his supervised experience documentation form dated March 15th, 2019, LPCS Hammergoss expressed concerns about professional and effective communication skills. This brings me to my current LPCS Elizabeth Duran, of whom I searched for in El Paso, Texas, and of whom I met with on August the 20th. Essentially, I chose to end my supervision with LPCS Shadem, being that I was her first intern, and due to the lack of experienced LPC supervisors in my small town of Alpine, Texas, I would like to present my current supervised experience documentation form dated October the 4th, 2021, and wherein in section C is noted, please refer to attached letter. LPCS Duran immediately addressed the remediation needs by engaging me in questions regarding clients and concerns, progress and case management. LPCS Duran also helped me by introducing a more clinical emphasis and clinical awareness approach to notes and a more professional self-expression. She further introduced a small textbook entitled Note Designer, A Guide to Writing Psychotherapy Notes by Patricia Baldwin, a PhD. Further, LPCS Duran introduced an additional need for instrument screenings into my counseling. This we felt furthered the expanse of the communication needs expressed by Mr. Hammergoss, his remediation requests. I would also like to introduce my part-time employment with federal probation. I feel has helped me with hands-on developing of my professional communication skills and their maturity, most especially alongside the guidance of LPCS Duran, through whom, while on the part-time basis, I was able to complete my 3,000 hours. This federal probation job, I believe, is an example of LPCS Hammergos's belief, as he wrote that I am, quote, capable of independent licensure with this remediation. And to demonstrate my present federal probation job does periodic random monitorings. On May 22nd, 2020 monitoring report, I got a satisfactory rating out of a rating scale of excellent, satisfactory, and then unsatisfactory and unacceptable. On another monitoring report dated December the 21st, 2020, it was reported to me a satisfactory rating. To note also, my contract with them has recently been renewed. To note, these monitorings rate my abilities in file maintenance and organization, case staffing, vendor reports, example, my end of month invoices, and etc. My dear members of the LPC board, I am grateful for this opportunity of 5 minutes to speak many of God's blessings to you and the daily work and service that you do for the state of Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carrillo. I will also allow your supervisor to speak if they are here. We have that.
I didn't see her, but let me double check.
If she's not, then we will move to discussion, but it's going to give her the opportunity.
Miss Elizabeth Duran Lopez, if you are on the call, can you raise your hand? I'm not seeing the name, but she could have called in with a different title or the phone number. So,
Mr. Carrillo, were you expecting your supervisor to attend this morning? You're on mute, sir, if you can hear me.
Mr. Carrillo, do you know if Miss Duran Lopez was going to try and be on today? Please unmute yourself. I did not receive a response from her. I sent her an email and did not receive a response.
Okay, let's move forward with this with discussion. Does anyone have any direct questions for Mr. Carrillo? Okay, if I'm understanding procedurally, then the only reason that this reached the board level is because we did vote on this back in September, and at that time it was denied. But with this additional information, that changes things, and that's why we have the vote before us today.
Correct.
Okay, board, are there any concerns? No concerns, no questions for the applicant?
I have none, Mr. Chair. With the information presented and the fact that the new supervisor has found the remediation plan to be complete, I would like to propose a motion to accept the application in advance for licensure.
This would be a motion to approve the upgrade to full licensure, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Taylor.
I second.
Okay, Dr. Bradley seconded. All in favor of approving Mr. Carrillo's upgrade to full licensure, please raise your hand and state aye.
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 Okay, just want to make sure we got all of us. Ms. Campanone, are you going to vote? Oh, okay. Okay, that is approved. Thank you, Mr. Carrillo.
Mr. Carrillo, we'll reach out to you just so we can be on the same page about when your license for upgrade will be completed, hopefully very soon. But we will reach out to you. And if you have any specific questions, you can reach out to Attorney Clark, and him and I will communicate further.
Thank you, Mr. Carrillo, especially for serving in those remote rural areas where we could use more good therapists. Moving on, agenda item number 5. We do have a couple for discussion today. So Christina will hand it over on these agreed orders that we need to discuss.
Yes, so on number 5, this is an order that needs to be executed by the board. So this is an older case. It's in your board packet material. And let me pull mine up. This one, Dr. Taylor will need to recuse himself as he was part of the informal settlement conference. Did any of the board members have specific questions on the order and how it was written or anything to that nature?
For the record, I will recuse. Should I just turn off my camera, Patrick? Would that be more official?
No, you can stay on.
Okay.
Board, are there any questions regarding the agreed order? I will need a motion that we accept this suspension.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Pompanone and Ms. Stubblefield with the second. All in favor of accepting the agreed order for the suspended license, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And note that it's unanimous with the abstention of Dr. Taylor. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. And there was a second one, correct?
For the board to execute, no, there was only one. So the next is, I'm going to just jump in. Number 6 is for agenda item number 6 is going to be the orders that have been executed already by the council's executive director. So you all have a list of those. To be honest, I totally forgot to count how many there are. And again, just because there's one there, they may have covered additional cases. So there could be, I think there were like 25 or around that. So
26.
Oh, 26. Okay, good guess. And so those are there for you all to review, but those have already been executed. So there's no action needed by the board.
I just want to say that that just shows some awesome teamwork from the attorneys and our complaints committee and all the work we're doing on the ISCs. I don't think I've ever seen 26 or 27 agreed orders in one meeting before. So Bheck is working, the new system is working.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to number 7. We did receive a petition during these past few months. And Patrick, do you mind giving us a little bit of background on the petition and the outcome that you have recommended?
Sure, absolutely. You may remember, I think last board meeting, the Texas Association of Psychological Associates, TAPA, had written an informal letter essentially asking for the consideration of removing the word associate at the end of licensed professional associate and replacing it with something or just changing the name. They personally, I guess, liked intern better. I'm not really sure. They had a lot of different proposals and various other things. But anyways, that was an informal letter. They've recently submitted a formal petition for rulemaking, which does require a response to. And so in their petition, they generally focus on the idea that they believe the licensed professional counselor associate would somehow be confused with licensed psychological associate because they both have the term associate in them. I personally disagree with that. One says psychological associate, one says licensed professional counselor associate. So I think there's the operative word there clearly is professional counseling, psychological. They're governed by different statutes and different practices. I don't think there's this worry of public confusion that they stress in their petition and asking for it. And so I've written a letter for your review basically explaining that it's within the authority of the council and the board to write this, to change it to licensed professional counsel associate, and that we don't feel like there's going to be a big, public confusion caused because of this change, because it's already been in effect for almost a year now. It's not something that's proposed or about to happen. It's already happened. So anyways, the whole point of having this is the letter is there for your review and approval. And if you vote and approve the letter, we'll send that as a response to deny the petition for rulemaking.
Patrick, thank you for drafting the response on that. Does anyone have any questions or any additional points that they felt should have been made? To be honest, Patrick covered it very well.
No, Patrick, I thought it was great. I really enjoyed the language you used. I thought your points were exactly what we have been discussing during the rule change process. So I feel like it's pretty much covered everything it needs to cover. So thank you for that.
I'll just add that your letter coincides with what other states are doing. I think a couple of us are licensed in other states as well. And it's either associate professional counselor, a licensed professional counselor associate. A lot of states are moving away from the intern status, which helps with eventual reciprocity if we, get to that point among all states.
If this had been submitted to us, a year and a half ago, I think it would have received additional weight and consideration. But like Patrick said, this term was changed over a year ago. It's been in place, and then we actually have data that would dispute their assertion that it creates confusion. And this was done a year ago. It's been in place. I am not inclined to undo it. Does anyone have anything to add? And if not, I will ask for a motion that we approve council's response letter.
So move.
Okay. Ms. Campanone with the move and a second. Dr. Moon.
Bheck.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Dr. Bradley, with the second. All in favor of approving council's response letter, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Thank you. That passes. Appreciate your work on that, Patrick. Let's go on to number 8, reports review.
All right, so in your packets, we have outlined all of the reports for you all. There's some quarterly report, fourth quarter reports in there, as well as some annual reports in there. In your, let me see, I'm trying to pull it up, sorry. So these are pretty basic for your information. Are there any questions specifically over any of the reports? I mean, you can tell in the numbers, the investigations unit, enforcements unit, they're continuing to get those complaints done. And the attorneys, I know we just lost you, but Brian's jumped in really quick and jumping on top of those cases and getting as much done as possible. Licensing as well, they continue to work extremely hard and we're just getting those applications processed as quickly as possible, again, while following the rules of the board that's required. But do you guys have any specific questions related to any of the reports?
Okay, hearing none. Let's move on to number 9. We had a couple SOA cases. Brian, are you going to discuss these any?
I can, yeah. So
maybe just briefly.
yeah, I'll just go in. So the first one is Jennifer Bullard. She had entered a non-therapeutic sexual relationship with a client. She didn't respond to any of our correspondence or notices. She didn't show up for the SOA hearing. The administrative law judge issued a default order for revocation.
Okay. And there was a second one. Does it? Patrick, that one?
There's a proposed order for the board to consider and recommend ratification for the council. It'll need to be entered, the final order will need to be entered by the council at its next meeting, but the board needs to make a recommendation based for what the council should do. So if you look in your board materials, there's a final order for your review and approval as well. For that case. Do you want to go on to the next?
For
the other
both.
case? For both of them, actually, there's two different orders, right?
We'll probably want to vote separately though, Patrick.
It'd be cleaner, but you could do,
Yeah.
you could do them both at the same time, but it'd probably be easier to do it, cleaner to do it one at a time.
Patrick, the order has Bheck Chair Canseco's name as the presiding member. Can I strike that?
Well, I would think she would be the one in February that would probably be presiding over the meeting to sign it, but I mean.
We're-
if you want-
Okay,
The LPC board is voting to recommend this to council. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. And
Okay.
so then it wouldn't be signed until February and be
Okay.
final until that meeting in February.
Okay, so this is just you guys recommending it to them.
Yeah, under the rules, agreed orders can be entered by the board, but the final order of a contested case is supposed to be entered by the council, but the council's supposed to get a recommendation from the board. So that's the step we're doing, is making
Okay.
sure we are approving what was done at SOA, or you want to modify what was done at SOA.
okay. Then I will need a motion that we recommend this proposed final order and that will be sent to Bheck.
So moved.
Thank you, Pastor Roy. Do I have a second? And Dr. Taylor with the second. All in favor of the recommendation on the final order that will be sent to Bheck, please raise your hand and state aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone. That concludes the first one, and we have a second SOA matter.
Yeah, the second one is Aaron Williams. He was convicted of sexual assault of a child and sentenced to 8 years in prison. We took it to SOA. SOA issued a proposal for decision recommending revoking his license. So we've got the same thing as the last one.
Any discussion on this?
Move to accept.
Okay. Ms. Stubblefield has moved that we accept this recommendation. Ms. Campanone has seconded. All in favor of approving the recommended final order, please raise your hand and state aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Brian, welcome to the team. It's nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I hadn't spoken with you, but I look forward to working with you. Thank you for the work you're doing for our board.
Oh, Christina, I'm sorry,
Yes.
I just forgot, we skipped a step procedurally. So before we go any further on these, we forgot to ask to see if either of the respondents were in the audience and give them an opportunity to speak. Neither of them have participated thus far, so I had already in my mind that they probably weren't going to show up, but we should at least see if either Aaron Williams or Ms. Bullard is in the audience, give them an opportunity to speak.
Okay, I do have two Jennifers on here, no last name. So if either of the Jennifers are on, or Miss Jennifer Bullard, please raise your hand, or if they're under another name, please raise your hand. And I also do not see an Aaron Williams. But if either of those are here on the call, please raise your hand. Oh, okay, hold on just a sec.
Patrick, do we have to revote?
If they're here, you can give them an opportunity to speak, and then you could reconsider your vote and potentially after they speak. But if they're not here, we can just move forward. But Christina, you may just check the phone number too. So if they're not going to raise their hand, and they're not here, but the only person that can't raise their hand is the phone caller. So.
Okay. Caller, if you are part of either of these cases, please press *6, I believe it is, to unmute yourself.
Patrick, can we come up with a better approach to how we address call-ins so that we don't just have to randomly offer a number and the opportunity to talk?
I'll have to check with Zoom. I'm not sure exactly how the.
Just our procedures, like if we can just say if they have business, please email us in advance with the phone number so we know which phone number it is.
That they're gonna talk from.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that. I'm not sure.
All right.
But I do not see anyone for these two cases.
Then let's go ahead and move forward. Okay, agenda item number 10, rulemaking. Letter A, board action needed. First, we're gonna consider the proposed changes to associate supervisor that would allow an associate to own a business, and the associated definition changes that are required in order to make that change. This was published in the October 1st Texas Register, and everyone was given the opportunity to submit comments on this. I read through all the comments. To briefly summarize my notes, those who spoke in favor of the proposed rule changes cited that basically we should let the free market decide on this. They are requesting parity with LMFT associates. There was examples given of how this would open opportunities in rural areas, and the desire to stop the perceived exploitative relationship between associates and supervisors. Those who provided written comment against generally said that associates were not ready and that they should be focusing on clinical work, not running a business. There's the concerns regarding supervisor liability, and also presented the argument that LPCs are differentiated from LMFT associates. As far as I could tell, I did not see additional concerns. I did not see additional arguments in favor of the rule change. A lot of it was what we have considered over the course of this year. At this time, before we vote on the change, I would want to hear from you. If something stuck out to you in the written comments submitted from Texas Register, let's go ahead and have a discussion on this. For the record, it is 681.2, 681.91, and 681.93. The majority of the comments kind of put all three together. There was not much separation into I'm favor of this, but against that. So I will open it up for any discussion prior to voting on this rule change.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it was my impression that 0.2, 0.91, and 0.93 comments seem to be pretty in line with each other. Is that your impression as well?
It was.
Yeah.
Okay. I did not pick up on anybody who were in favor of 681.2, but firmly against 681, 91, and 93. Christina had the arduous task of dividing it all up for us, and so they were separated for all three rules. But as a general rule, you're either for it and for all three, or against it and against all three.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in my opinion, there was not additional arguments presented either for or against that we have not considered during this process. And it goes back a long way, Rules Committee to the LPC board and stakeholder presentations and Bheck and Texas Register. Not much changed in my mind, but I do want to hear from the board today if something has come to light and that you feel as though we should discuss it today. Go ahead, Dr. Bradley.
In reviewing that was going to be my question, and my question to the board. I didn't see anything that was all that different, but I'd be curious, if someone else saw anything, but I didn't.
Dr. Muna, anything to add?
No, I think just kind of the discussion, we did put time and energy into our last meeting on this topic. And so I don't feel like it's something that was rushed. And just, I'm here now re-reviewing the information. I don't think that there was something drastically, kind of like you mentioned, Steve, that would change because it's a very polarizing order. So I don't think that there's anything new that I saw that would change my perspective on it.
Thank you. Ms. Campanone, anything to add?
I did take the time to read it just now, but I still stand firm, just like I did in our last meeting. So I don't have anything new to add.
Okay. Ms. Stubblefield, do you have anything to add?
Chair Halbar, I do not have anything new to add. No, thank you.
Okay. And fine. Pastor Roy, do you have anything to add on this proposed change?
Not at all.
Okay. Is there any final discussion? Okay. Christina, Patrick, can we consider A, B, and C all together?
If you'd like to, there's one thing I would just wanted to point out. I think TCA pointed out a typo. They caught a typo on it that will probably staff will maybe just correct at the end of M in 681.91. It talks about the having the documents with the supervisor's name on everything, and in it it says websites and intake documents. There was meant to be an including to just, it's not a substantive change, but it's a typographical, just sort of a clarification there to say including websites and intake documents, because it sort of seemed like this hanging, part of the sentence that didn't TCA caught it, and it's in the materials that you guys have. It just, when I double checked the register, it had a minor typo, so wanted to let you guys know about it, but I don't think it changes anything. So
okay, so non-substantive, it would not be affected by our decision here today.
Yeah, but we'll probably move forward with correcting that, putting the including into it.
Okay, and Patrick, like I like to ask of you, will you give us a brief direction of where this goes after we vote today?
Sure, absolutely. So this will go to the council at its next meeting, which is in February. I want to say the 1st, February 1st. Brenda, am I right? It's February 1st, I think. And that's where they will receive, if this is approved, they'll review it and approve it and then publish it, and it'll become final in the register sometime after that. It'll probably be, if approved today, it'll be effective sometime in February, I want to say, depending on when as soon as we can get it to the register. So late February, maybe.
Okay. All right, I would ask for a motion that we approve changes to A 681.2, B 681.91, and C 681.93.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to so move that we make changes and accept to 681.2, 0.91, and 0.93.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Do I have a second? And Ms. Campanone with the second. Thank you very much. Okay, all in favor of the proposed changes, please raise your hand and state aye.
Aye.
And did you get everybody?
Miss Stubblefield, did you?
Go on and ask for the nays.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, but did you get all the
Yes.
ayes?
Yes.
Okay. And all opposed with, raise your hand and say nay.
Nay.
Thank you. Okay. Proposed changes pass. Moving on to letter B, board action is not. Yes, sir.
Before we do that, if I could, Patrick, can you educate us on the path forward for this? So people have an understanding when this is actually going to become active and what the next steps are.
Yeah, the best ballpark guess I could give you is late February, but that it'll become effective, because the again, the council will have to review it, and their next meeting is February 1st. And so if they approve it, which I don't know why they necessarily wouldn't, but it'll have to then go to the register and get published for final adoption, which will likely be later that month, I would imagine. So maybe late February, I think, or
So February, March.
Yeah.
State needs to get ready to start approving a bunch of new businesses.
Middle to late February.
middle to late February. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Okay, back to letter B. No board action is required on these, but I did want to give you an update of where things stand. Letter I, proposed rule changes that went to Bheck a few weeks back. Bheck did approve letter A, our minutes changes, and letter C, the schedule of sanctions. At my recommendation, the board agreed to send B 681.83 academic course content. They agreed to send that back to the LPC board for further consideration. Since we met in September, there has been additional research conducted, additional discussion going on. Those of you that have reached out to me with your concerns about this, I'm listening and I want to hear. I've also spoken with our stakeholder organizations regarding the concerns that they have. And here today on November 12th, I want to say that I believe that this is an issue of the same level of importance that the discussion on the associate and supervisor changes were. And with the associate and supervisor, we gave that additional consideration. And so I'm recommending today, and based on additional investigation and research and discussion and additional aspects to this change that have been brought up since our September meeting, it is going to be my recommendation that we break this proposed change out into separate consideration to begin at the Rules Committee, where we will hear from our stakeholder organizations with both written and oral comments at the Rules Committee meeting. Taking a look at the calendar, I would like to do this in mid-January so that we can hear from them prior to the Bheck meeting on February 1st, and then for sure ahead of our next meeting on February 11th. So I apologize for kind of taking a different path of analysis on this. I like to do things deliberately, and having really done a deep dive into this issue, I wish we'd done it this way from the start. So it's going to be my recommendation that we treat this as I guess we can informally designate substantial changes and propose that we kind of go to the review system that frankly, I believe worked pretty well for discussion on associate supervisor. We will solicit written comment from TCA, TASIS, and Christian Counseling Association. See what they have to say about it. Make sure that they understand the reasoning behind this proposed change. This is not because we feel like there is substantial reasons for why we propose this change in the first place, and that is to allow flexibility on licensure for the review staff. Now, since this was brought up in September, we've heard from lots of people. I know y'all have heard from lots of people. We want to do it right. We want to hear from everybody, and that's why today it's going to be my recommendation that here at the board we agree that, all right, this is a substantial issue. Let's get some opinions from our stakeholders. Allow our Texas therapists to funnel their concerns to their stakeholder leadership, and then we'll hear from them at the Rules Committee meeting. And you know what? At Rules Committee, if then we start thinking, well, okay, maybe we don't want to make this full change. Maybe we can explore some alternatives that give staff that flexibility that they're looking for to not get bogged down on improving licenses, but to everybody's, or to everyone's comfort level, we protect the core academic requirements required for full licensure. Any discussion? Dr. Bradley? Take off mute.
First, I want to thank you for what you said. I'm glad that the proposed amendment is going to be sent back. I'm just a little bit unclear about the process. And given, you know, all the concerns about transparency in the petition with over 2,000 signatures, can you be more specific on the next steps? For example, I'm right now getting questions on when's that January meeting? I don't know. So how can we be more specific? You said something about January, and I don't know what we're talking about in terms of date.
When we had a specific rules committee meeting just to analyze the changes to associate supervisor, allowing associates to own a business. We had it designated with one subject rules committee meeting. We solicited written statements from our stakeholder organizations, and then we also allowed them time to speak at the rules committee meeting. And that was our way of soliciting stakeholder involvement and hearing from Texas LPCs that relay their concerns up to their leadership. And so we have not set a date for this yet, and that's because I didn't want to come into this meeting today telling y'all this is exactly when it was going to be. I wanted to come into this meeting and say, this is what I would like to do, but I need kind of a thumbs up from the board that this is the way that you want to proceed. Mid-January was identified because, frankly, the holidays are coming up, and I didn't want to tie everybody down with dealing with this in mid-December when we're starting to focus on other things. So my idea was if we set this rules committee meeting in mid-January, that allows everybody to kind of get their opinion, their statements completed after the new year and submitted to the board. We have the rules committee meeting, and then just calendar wise, it's roughly 10 to 14 days prior to Bheck, and it's roughly a month to three and a half weeks prior to our next LPC board meeting. It seems like that is the best time to have it. But no, we have not set a specific date or time yet.
And again, the biggest thing for the public to, you know, keep in mind is you will all still have an opportunity to provide public comment and make your opinion known. And the next chance for that for the public related to anything that's going on will be at our next February 11th meeting. So, you know, like we've stressed before, is sign up for email alerts so that you can know when things are going, you know, what is going on, when things are going to happen. You can get the dates, you can get the material. So at this time, the public needs to just keep in mind the February 11th date, because what's going to happen in January is going to be a rules committee, which is not a full board committee. So, you know, just at this point, the date to keep in mind for everyone is going to be that February 11th to review if there's new rules proposed related to, you know, what we're talking about right now. And that meeting will be when the public can provide their public comment and their opinion on the rules.
Dr. Bradley?
I have one more quick question. I keep hearing about staff, and I just went on and renewed my application. Christina, how many of your staff are complaining about this? Because it's my impression that things are working more smoothly today than they did when I first came on the board. So are staff complaining that, you know, that it's worse than usual?
I am not receiving anything from staff that there's issues going on with reviewing anything. No. I don't see the licensing manager on here now. I don't know, Tim, I don't know if you have any information that you've received. I know you're kind of out of the licensing realm as well, but do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I can speak to it a little bit. It's more of a case of individuals who don't appear to be a threat to the safety of the people of Texas, yet still are unable to get a license. So for example, this is only about counseling related degrees, not about counseling degrees. So you can have somebody who has a marriage and family therapy degree that is unable to get dually licensed or is unable to get an LPC license because of some of the changes that were made back in 2013. And so this is an effort to add some flexibility into the rules where the counseling related degree is concerned. So it's not a case of lots and lots and lots of individuals. It's a case of some individuals and the staff recognizing that these individuals don't represent a threat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess what I'm hearing, and I can only go from my experience, I found things with staff working very smoothly in the last few years. So I was just trying to get a feel of, do we have complaints that they're overworked, since that's been mentioned before?
I don't believe that we're on the razor's edge as far as staff overwork is concerned, but we are definitely doing much better than we were shortly before the transition over to Bheck. Just so what you're hearing is completely accurate, that staff is doing well and that the applications are moving smoothly. This isn't an effort in regard to some type of deluge of applications that is causing difficulty for staff. So that's not what's at root here.
Yeah, I think more of the issue was that staff is overburdened in phones and other areas. And this is an issue that was creating a bit of a backlog for a specific type of applicant. So that's why we were kind of looking at that to just create more efficiency in that area, to free up time so that they can answer the phones. And that are, I mean, right now, I think we're getting the investigators to start answering the phones, which sounds like a terrible idea to me because we don't have enough people to man phones. We don't have enough investigators. So, it's an efficiency all around. So if we can increase efficiency over here, that frees people up over there. I do think things are 1,000 times better than when you and I started 6 years ago, 7 years ago. But and I'm really excited about all the work we've done to accomplish that. But I don't want to stop. I want to keep going. I want to make it more efficient. I want people to get their licenses approved in a few days, and I don't want to see these issues. I want more therapists in the state of Texas. We don't have enough. We need more, and I want them to be good, not just mediocre. But that's why we looked at that. It had nothing to do with academics or core competency. We were just looking at a way to make the application process efficient for those similar degrees. So we'll definitely get into that and look at a better way to do it.
Dr. Bradley, you wanted to say something, correct?
Yes, I was just going to say, I want to personally praise staff because I've certainly seen a big change in recent years. And the only comment that I would make is I don't think that we can ever reduce quality in terms of course content. Those are two separate issues, but I don't hear that much of a staff issue here. And I just wanted to ask about that, but I've been very pleased with comments I've heard from other people about staff and what they're doing. So I just caution us that in licensure, quality certainly is the prime factor there. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I fully agree with that, Dr. Bradley. We don't want to reduce quality. Our job is to find and maintain that minimal standard, right? We're not here to make best practice. We're just here to find and maintain that minimal standard. And so when we're looking at these other degrees coming in that are close to counseling related, MFTs, that sort of stuff that are creating large issues for efficiency, we want to just look at ways to work with that without reducing the core competencies and those things. So,
well, I'm going to leave it up to, I'm just going to say just one other thing, and that is what I've said from day one, that I think quality is the main thing. And I think when you have a petition of 2,000 plus signatures that the public, the counselors are saying they want quality maintained. And I'll stop there.
Brenda, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that having been on the board since 2009, we've come a long way, a very long way. I can absolutely tell you what it was like back in 2009 versus what it is now. And, hands up to Christina and Tim and everyone who's done this possible or have made it possible. Also, when we call in ourselves, and ask a question, and the staff may be staff of 2 or 3 at the time, I cannot imagine the load that they have, but I know that they're cordial, that they're doing their work. I can see it, especially when Christina reports back to us, this is where we are in the application process, this is those people that are getting renewed, and so on and so forth, and I love it. So we are just at 1,000% better than we were in 2009. I can attest to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Okay, so getting back to how this discussion started, that is my outline of the path moving forward for additional consideration and discussion regarding the curriculum rule change. Does anybody want to, do you have any suggestions for additional ways to consider this, or you think that, well, Steve, it would actually work better if we did it a different way? Because I'm taking the model that we used on the associate supervisor change. And to be honest with you all, I thought that went pretty well. I thought that, yes, we can disagree on these rule changes. However, people want to feel as though their voice is being heard. And so that's why, and I apologize, I view it as substandard leadership on my part. We probably should have done this from the very beginning, but we're doing a course correction at this point, and we're following the model that we've used before, which I thought was pretty successful. And so that's the direction I want to head.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I agree. And I definitely agree with Dr. Bradley's point as well. So I'm happy to send it back to our committee and review that process. And then I have a few ideas, I think, that we might be able to explore to kind of navigate around this and still create some efficiency for staff. So I'm excited to get into that at the rules meeting.
Yeah, last week at TCA, when, there was some questions about this, and I kind of threw out the term, the elegant solution, that we can find something that gives staff the flexibility they need on these certain licensure considerations, but without sacrificing the core curriculum areas that are essential to the quality of the therapists we have. That's where it stands. You can, when we have a date, following this meeting, maybe I'll check the calendar with Christina here, and we'll zero that in, and then we'll reach out to Dr. Bacon and Mario and Sandra and let them know that they've got another essay to write to submit to us. That's it. Okay. Moving on to B and then double I. Bheck approved on double I, A through F. Not anything really to report there. It was fairly undramatic.
And I'm just going to add real quick, and Brenda, Skiff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe these rules under 2 or double I were published to Texas Register today. Yes. Okay. So they are posted there to Texas Register today. And I'll get the website and a blast out hopefully today.
Great. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to number 11, discussion and possible action regarding committee reports. As we just discussed, Rules Committee plan on a mid-January, probably 1 o'clock afternoon meeting. We'll get more information to you on that. But if I'm understanding correctly, we have not had committee meetings since our September meeting, and that consequently, we do not have any additional committee reports, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, agenda item number 12. Let's move on to more exciting information. The Counseling Compact is now listed as an agenda item on here, and we're going to discuss the Texas position. As we, those that participated in the board's panel presentation last week at TCA, we made it very clear to TCA that the board considers itself to be pro-compact, and that we are, we would like to do it deliberately when we join. What I want is when we reach out, we won't, but when legislatures are taking a look at whether they want to be the sponsor of the bill that would allow Texas to join the Counseling Compact, that what they don't say is, I don't think you guys are ready because I've looked at your board and you've got a bunch of wonky rules that won't work. And so I'm not going to sign on to supporting membership in the compact until the board gets its act together. So between now and the next legislative session, because we are quote unquote very pro-compact, we will be starting to take a look at what we need to do to be organized, to be ready, to purposely be joining the Counseling Compact. So when legislators call Daryl up and they say, Daryl, is Counseling Board ready for this? Daryl says, yeah, they've been looking at it for the past 2 years, and they have made this change and that change, and they've got this ready to go. Okay, so what I'm saying is we are thinking very far ahead at this point, because we want to have this, you know how it goes, but as seamless as possible of a transition to joining the Counseling Compact. And for sure, we don't want to do anything that complicates joining. Okay. Dr. Bradley is the authority on this. And also last week at TCA, I had a chance to reach out to other people that are very familiar with this. And I'm excited about getting them involved. Because like I said, we want to be thinking ahead, making sure that when we have the opportunity to get this thing passed, that we're ready for it. So Dr. Bradley, I'll let you take it.
I would never say I'm an authority on it, but I did get to attend the town hall meeting on the Interstate Compact this week, Wednesday night. And the director for the National Center for Interstate Compacts, Mr. Dan Logston, talked about that. And one of the phrases I heard was when he was talking, he said, I'm going to give an overview of the Counseling Compact. And he called it a privilege to practice with mutual recognition. And he talked about the 2 states and the fact that 10 states are needed. And I asked him a question, and the question I asked is, how many states do you have pending that you think will join by 2022? And he said 14 states currently are planning to file legislation this year. You, Chair Hallbauer, are an attorney, and I'm not, so you probably have better idea of what that means. But with 2 already in the compact and 14 more pending, and he said North Carolina and Ohio were close, it sounds to me like good progress is being made. And of course, the magic date is July of 2022. But there was a meeting about this Wednesday night.
Okay. Thank you for that update, Dr. Bradley. Anyone else want to add anything to that? Dr. Minna, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but you have moved in from out of state. Do you have any like perspective on how this helps those that move from out of state and what kind of difference it would make?
Well, I will say it would make a drastic difference. I remember my migration to Texas from Georgia, and I was already licensed in Georgia and South Carolina, but because those states are so close, literally crossing a bridge, 5 minutes from Savannah, you're into South Carolina. Those 2 boards work closely together because there are people who live in each other's states and work in each other's states. And so I think it brings Texas into a very good position of progress and networking to be in a compact. I think it would also encourage individuals from other states to come in. I know that we kind of have a semi-reciprocity, but even my own application for reciprocity coming from being a licensed supervisor took a little bit longer than I anticipated. And having something like a compact would have prepared me better in my journey into Texas. So I think the conversations are good. I think they're necessary. I think the work is necessary. But I think getting it right in the beginning, because I can say Georgia and South Carolina did not get it right. They stumbled a little bit. And so getting it right legally in the beginning, getting the terminology right, and getting the stakeholders on board in the beginning will definitely be beneficial to us. It'll be a win for us. It won't be a mass exodus of our counselors leaving to go elsewhere. It'll definitely be, if nothing else, not having a state tax will bring in more counselors that we need to serve, especially in the rural areas.
Yeah, when we go and sit down, not us, but our representatives, when they sit down with legislators, that's the spiel to give them, to tell them this is why this is a great thing. You know, the politicians are asked, well, what's the downside? And we don't have one. We're not, like you said, we're not concerned about our therapists leaving the state. We want more to come here and have the additional revenue opportunities for that membership in the compact would create. So thank you, Dr. Amuna. Does anybody else have anything to add on that?
And how about, I'd like to, you took part of my question away with the politicians. It's a good thing because I was about to ask about, we see a lot of the pros for a compact involvement, and that we can't really see any downside. Do the legislators, do they say anything to us about a downside? Are they coming up with any cons of a compact?
Dr. Bradley, you may have something to add on that, but maybe you've seen. Pastor Roy, if I had to guess, it's that Texas likes to do things Texas's way, and there may be some concern by why should we change our rules to what other states are doing, or is this going to make us subject to federal involvement? That would be my only guess.
Well, Texas can sometimes be a headstrong child, so you know how that goes. Okay.
But no, that is a consideration, because like I said, when the people that are going to sell this to legislators, they need to know what the answers to those questions are. Like, well, what's the downside here? And they'll be ready for that. But Brenda, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, of course, when COVID hit, and restrictions. There was no restrictions. We were allowed to be able to provide that counseling to everyone. It helped out tremendously to be able to reach out to everyone because most of us were staying home. And even that had its downside for some people, but I feel like it's already been tested alone just through COVID in this year and a half, almost approaching 2 years. So I think we need to continue doing that and working with everyone. And again, availability, continuity of care, all those things are important. So I really hope that this continues. It progresses into something bigger and better for all of us.
Go ahead, Dr. Bradley.
I agree with what Brenda said. In that compact meeting Wednesday night, one of the things he said, because it was brought up, how do we get legislators on board? And they said, well, you're certainly, like anything, going to need a sponsor. But they said, look at what's happened with nursing. And the statement was made that now 39 states have this compact for nursing. And he said since January of 2016, there are a total of 183 licensure compacts. So couldn't we look at how those compacts were successful and then kind of get our act together? And I'm sure that Jan Fries and TCA will know how to do this with the legislators, but we've got some models out there, and they talked about this Wednesday night. And but I think one of the things that might impress our legislators is the compact. There's evidence to show that it has increased marketing opportunities. So that's one big thing. It supports military spouses. It has, as Brenda just mentioned, the opportunity to facilitate telehealth. And I think it promotes cooperation among the states and offers a higher degree of consumer protection throughout the US. So those are just some things I can think of. But with that nursing compact that the director's saying has worked so well, that might give us some ideas here.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Bradley. Dr. Muna, did you have something to add?
I did. I was just kind of agree with Dr. Bradley. She literally took the words out of my mouth. As a former military family life counselor, I see so many military spouses who struggle to get their licenses transferred over into the state. And I know that we're working on that, but I think the strong-headed child of Texas would benefit from us saying that we are helping military spouses who will happen to be clinicians to get employed sooner, as opposed to waiting for a more tedious process to be licensed. Additionally, being a university counseling director, prior to COVID, if I had a student who remained online, enrolled into our program, but moved out of state, they were no longer eligible for counseling services because my license did not cover that state that they were in. And so being able to say, how do I serve a student who's a full-time student who's not physically in the place of my license? That compact will definitely help with college students across the state who may go away for a semester, who may go away for a summer, and they still need that mental health services that they're paying for in their student fees.
Okay. Yeah, I'll keep you posted on it. We've started exploring some different options, like maybe putting together a separate committee that is in charge with seeing that we properly implement the compact when it's time. Dr. Mena, it was interesting that you had mentioned that it was a little rocky for the implementation for Georgia and with South Carolina. That's the kind of thing that we want to identify. What was an unexpected issue for Georgia's implementation, and how can we avoid it? Go ahead, Dr. Bradley.
forgot to mention one thing, and I apologize. You know, the Department of Defense is in strong support of this compact. And that may be another plus too.
Good. Well, let's go ahead and move on. That's all exciting news, and we hope that each time that we get together, we have a little bit more of an exciting update on it. Moving on, agenda item number 13. This is a new one that Dr. Taylor is starting to head up. We're going to discuss how we're starting to identify and handle scams that are targeting our Texas counselors.
You're on mute, Dr.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, without creating a cliffhanger, do you mind if we take a 5-minute break?
Oh, yeah, but this is a good time to have it.
And then come back for the exciting conclusion of scams.
Yeah, good point. I'll allow that. Let's have a 5-minute break and then everybody come back. All right.
What time, Mr. Chair, to come back?
Let's just round it off to 10:30 even.
10:30. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, see y'all in a minute. Welcome back, everybody. It is now 10:31 a.m. I will call the meeting back to order. We are on agenda item number 13. Discussion, possible action concerning phone scams against counselors. This was initiated by Dr. Taylor, so I'll let him take the lead on what we're doing on this.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just more of a informational discussion. There's not really anything I have planned for action at this time, but one of the issues we're seeing, which is rather concerning, is a growing and alarming amount of scams against therapists. And we talked about this at the last Bheck meeting as well. And I just find it particularly repulsive to take advantage of a therapist who is by nature highly empathic, and wants to help and wants to do what's right. So there's been a number of scams that we've seen. I've even seen it. We've even had it in my company as well. There's the we've seen one where there's a couple in Canada that wants to come down and do like 10 sessions of therapy very intensely all at once. And then they want to pay in advance by check, and then they accidentally overpay you. And then you send them a refund check, and then they cancel the wire or whatever it is. So you're kind of out that. I've seen one, a guy from South Africa saying that he's going to pay all this money for his kids to do family therapy. Oh, but by the way, my driver needs to get paid. So can I pay you extra? And you can pay the driver, and then your check gets canceled. But the most disturbing one we've seen recently, and I've seen kind of news articles of it happening in other states as well, is the sheriff's department scam, where somebody calls you from the sheriff's department or police department saying that you failed to appear for a subpoena in a case, that you were served a subpoena and you failed to appear, and now you're going to go to jail. Now, this is very troubling because that is a real scenario that could actually occur, right? If you're subpoenaed to a court case and you fail to appear, you could be held in contempt. So this guy tells you, he's from he takes he takes somebody's name. It was an actual real person. They used a real person's name that used to be with the Tarrant County Sheriff's Department when they called one of our people. And they say, you have to, I'll help you get out of this. I'll help you, deal with the fine and everything. And they end up getting you into this sense of emergency, you're going to get in trouble, so that you go get a Visa gift card and then give them the numbers on the back of the Visa gift card. And I've heard numerous therapists across the state and across the country, ending up giving these people thousands of dollars because they think that they're going to get in trouble. I find that to be particularly disgusting and sad. So I don't know what we can do about it. Our role is to maintain minimal standards and to protect the public. I do think protecting our therapists also helps to protect the public. So obviously, if all of our therapists are getting scammed, then our public is not having access to mental health care. So we don't want that. At the Bheck meeting, we discussed maybe putting together or working with some of our stakeholders to put together sort of like a lunch and learn via Zoom, maybe like an infographic or PDF document on our website, maybe working with TCA or some of the other stakeholders to say, you know, let's do like a 1-hour scam training seminar at a major conference every year that people can attend. Just small stuff, you know, how to look for phishing scams, you know, how to know if this person is legitimate or not. You know, because I get some of our support staff will just like send me an email saying, hey, is this real? Like, I'm confused. And I'm like, well, you can tell that it's not real because there's a lot of misspellings in it. You know, they're trying to get you to click on a link to something saying you owe money. And we're like, well, but we don't do business with that vendor. So, you know, I mean, there's always ways to know. But it can be really easy to get caught up in it, especially if it's a sense of urgency. Your website's about to go down, you know, and then you know, with cyber security and phishing scams and hacks, you know, all this stuff is very scary coming down the road. So I just wanted to open that discussion up and start thinking about it. I don't, like I said, I don't have a solution. I don't know that there is a end-all be-all solution. I don't think we're going to stop all the scammers tomorrow, but just to kind of get that conversation started and see what we can do to help to protect our people and the public.
Well, Chris, I'll let you take away some of my exciting Bheck report that's coming up, because you should mention that we did create a Bheck task force on this, and we will be taking a look at some best practices and recommendations similar to what we've done with the social media guidelines. Just again, not creating any rules, just kind of creating some helpful information that we will put out for our therapists, and that you and I are both on the special scam task force.
Yeah, and I know sometimes it sounds silly listening to it. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody knows that there is not an internet lottery. So if you get an email that says you won the internet lottery, that's not real. But yeah, I wonder if maybe some people don't know that, and they click on it by accident, and then they get a virus on their computer. You know, I don't know. It's a big scary world out there. So
Dr. Taylor, I really like the idea of educating our clinicians, especially on those boundaries when it comes to money. Because that might resolve a number of those scam opportunities if everybody really understood their boundaries as a clinician and the exchange of money.
Yeah.
And Chair Halbauer being in the legal world to really educate everybody on like the procedures for being subpoenaed. I mean, there's specific procedures to that. And I think making sure our clinicians really understand what those procedures are and what they're not. Kind of.
I'd like to, the state bar on their website keeps a running list of all scams reported by Texas attorneys. And it's a long list, and frankly, it's incredibly creative. But what I'd like to, not that we need something similar, but an easily accessible resource where basically someone can say, this seems like a red flag. I know that the board has put out some recommendations on this. It's like when to know when something doesn't quite add up. And so we do want a quickly accessible resource for our therapists to be able to find.
I agree with Janie. I also like the idea of something, and it just may be too far-fetched, but like a things to know for newer clinicians who might not be searching all over for just like our updated scams list, but like a part of a packet, like, hey, you're a newly minted LPC, here are just some things to know, i.e. As a forensics counselor, I know that I won't get subpoenaed over the phone and have to do a gift card, but someone who's not may not know that. And so almost like a welcome gift to newly licensed clinicians, if we can just have a link to that page for them.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I'm envisioning this as very similar to our the social media policy guidelines. So we just now have, here's our recommendations on handling social media. Here's our recommendations for kind of identifying when you're being a target of the scam. Just helpful information. Okay, Dr. Taylor, anything else to add?
No, like I said, I didn't come in here with this is what we need to do to end scams for all time solution. I don't really even know if that's possible, but definitely just want to get the conversation started. I would love for some stakeholders to maybe step up and take this on, sort of like a best practice approach. I don't know if the department, if Bheck can maybe we'll see what kind of comes out of that task force and how we can assist LPCs. I think it targets all licensure, so I don't think it's unique to LPCs. We just happen to be the largest, so we're more exposed, obviously.
And when I've been thinking about this, the fact is, board, all of us are very public. People can get our names, and if a sophisticated scam can impersonate one of us and say, hey, I'm Stephen Hallbauer, and you didn't pay your licensing dues, and so send me a gift card and we'll get it all squared up. And that's just a concern that I've had, and we want to make it clear to the therapist, these aren't things that the board does on an individual capacity, so don't ever, that is a red flag. Somebody reached out to you alleging to be one of us.
Yeah. I see Daryl's about to start talking about something. No.
All right.
Yeah, no, great point, Stephen. And I think that's absolutely right. So, like I said, I don't know that there is an immediate solution, but definitely would like to add that to future consideration.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Taylor. We'll move on to item 14.
I think Brenda, if wanted to add something, do you want to add something, Brenda?
Oh, sorry.
Chair Hallbauer, what I was going to tell you is you were talking about the adopted rules that were published today in the Texas Register. I just wanted to let you know they will become effective on the 21st of November.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Brenda.
Okay, moving on. Item 14, we need a nomination of a professional member and an alternate to serve on the Bheck Council. As it stands right now, Dr. Taylor is our Bheck representative and Ms. Stubblefield is our alternate. And so, is there any discussion? Yes, Brenda?
Do you want us to nominate a new board member? Want us to?
Dr. Taylor can be renominated.
Oh, okay.
And Ms. Stubblefield can be renominated as the alternate.
Yeah, it has been an absolute honor to be a part of it. I'd like to continue to do so if the board will have it.
Okay.
I would vote to renominate the current people, the incumbents who are there.
I will second that.
Okay, Dr. Amuna made the nomination. Ms. Campanone did the second. All in favor of Dr. Taylor being reappointed as the LPC professional member on Bheck and Ms. Janie Stubblefield as the LPC alternate on Bheck, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Can we vote for ourselves, Janie? I don't know.
Yes, you can.
Who seconded?
Ms. Campanone seconded.
Thank you.
Okay, now that it's official, I didn't want to tip the scales, but Chris does a ton of work on Bheck. He represents us very admirably. Bheck is notorious for creating little bonus committees, and I think Chris is on every one of them. So we are always involved, and it does take up it does take up a lot of time. But it's a really good board that we have up there, and it's exciting to be part of the leadership of our other sister boards, and we're doing good work up there. So Dr. Taylor and Ms. Stubblefield, I assume that you will accept these reappointments.
With pleasure.
Yes, my pleasure.
It is great to have you both on board. Thank you for being willing to join.
Pray, Janie, he doesn't die or get hit by a bus.
Yes, Janie, you inherit all those bonus committees as well.
I am in the audience on those Bheck meetings, by the way, so I do hear you. And Daryl, your reports and your detail of your data is unbelievable. So
That's the most favorable description I've ever heard of anything I've done.
in a positive way, you outline it well.
All right. Daryl, welcome to the meeting. It's good to have you. We're going to go ahead and move on to number 15. This is the board chair report, including Bheck updates. So we'll get to those in just a second. First thing I wanted to mention, recognize Chris and Dr. Bradley and Christina for joining us at TCA last Friday in Galveston. We gave a panel presentation that was an update from the board. Each of us had a subject matter that we presented on, and then we took questions from the audience. It got a lot of good feedback about it. The attendees were grateful that the board was coming out there and hearing their concerns in person. A lot of comments about the course curriculum changes, a lot of questions about the sex trafficking CE course. And so we did kind of get to the bottom of that. But it's just a fantastic thing to be part of, because we are getting out in front of the membership directly. And so you guys, thanks for joining the panel discussion. I would like to also recognize Dr. Catherine Bacon, who I'm sure is on here somewhere. She was elected TCA president-elect. She will take over in 2023. I look forward to working with her. She is delightful to work with, and I'm excited about that opportunity. That means that we'll have a new board liaison starting next summer, and her name is Angela Bowles. And again, I look forward to working with her as well. So you two, thanks for giving the board that opportunity to speak at the TCA convention. It was great to just get out with people again. It just makes such a difference, and I enjoyed it, and I was grateful that they gave us that opportunity to speak. Bheck met a couple weeks ago. As we've already discussed, the proposed curriculum changes were sent back to our board. All other changes up for review and adoption passed. As we just mentioned previously, we created another ad hoc committee, and this one is going to be, like we talked about, how to recognize scams, targeting mental health professionals. Dr. Taylor and I are both part of that committee. Watch for some information from us, because we will be asking about, do you have a scam story that you want to share with us? Because we want to be aware of what's happened to you, because we want to identify things that have happened, and the more stories we hear, the better we can identify what are the red flags on these. If it's I need money quickly, it needs to be in a gift card or money order. That's the kind of thing that we want to identify. And the goal of this committee is to create a resource, not draft any rules here, but it's more of helpful suggestions. I don't know how much Daryl probably wants to get into this today, but y'all should know that one of the great things about Bheck is they put together a fee review committee. And it looked at licensing fees, upgrade fees across all the member boards. One of the things that, and I'm reluctant to even bring it up because it's so far away, but one of the proposed changes would reduce the initial LPC application fee, which is, I believe it's at $210. And the proposal under this standardization and standards review of what everything costs, it would knock our initial fee down to, I believe it's $158.50 or $158.75. The license renewal fee, we are well below the national average, and so there's no change on that. But I bring that up because it's just a great example of what Bheck can do. We took people did a real deep dive into what the fees associated with psychology, fees associated for social work and LMFT. And we average it all out. We've got some instructions from the governor's office on what they want us to look for. But one of the things we identified is the initial LPC fee is pretty high compared to other boards, compared to the national average. And so one of the initial proposals is that fee get reduced. Like I said, this has a long way to go because if you reduce all these fees, then that means that there's less revenue coming into the state. And if they're okay with that, then great. We have reduced fees, but that's lost revenue. And so, well, are we concerned about that? Would we need to make it up in another area? But I thought it was one of the pretty cooler things that has come out of Bheck that I hadn't even realized that we were going to take a look at. So, Daryl, anything that you want to add on that? Like I said, I know it's got a long way to go, and I was reluctant to even bring it up, but it's more just kind of as an example of what happens over there.
Yeah, it's part of what you get through the collaborative effort of all the boards being under Bheck. The economies of scale type thing that the legislature wants us looking at. If you want to actually see the chart, you guys can go to Bheck's meeting dates and download the meeting materials from the last Bheck meeting, which was October 26th. That part of my memory is already fading away. I think it's October 26th. We actually have the fee chart in there. If people wanted to look at it, you can scroll through there and find it if you just want to see what the actual numbers are.
Yep. And one last thing from Bheck, this just happened just this week. We've launched a FAQ page on the human trafficking awareness CE requirement. We had a lot of questions about this last week at our presentation at TCA. So I want to make everybody aware, if you're not on the email notification list, that's where it came out. And it's a helpful resource because this course is because of legislative changes, I think from 2 years ago, the 2019 session, and it's now it's now being implemented, and there were a ton of questions. So I do recommend go ahead and take a look at the FAQ page on the human trafficking awareness. That's it. That's all I have for my board chair report and Bheck update. Anybody have any questions? Daryl, while we're discussing Bheck, anything that you wanted to add?
The only other thing I can think of, if we haven't talked about, is I'd like everybody to just keep in mind the council's still working on the standardization committee. We're right now the big item up for debate is continuing education, trying to come up with some standardized language for continuing education. I think we're close. We're not there yet. I think I'm hopeful that at the next meeting, or maybe by the meeting after that, we'll have it wrapped up, ready to farm out to the boards for y'all to start looking at and contemplating. So that's a slow process, but again, that's one of those products of, hey, when you all get together and you start looking at how you start looking over at other people's paper and you're like, oh, so that's how y'all do it. Well, I like that a little bit better, or we do it better over here. It's just one of those things you get when you work together, whereas you're not siloed as much. So
moving on, agenda item 16 is our board administrator report. I'll hand it over to Christina.
All right. So first I wanted to, I know you had passing the kudos over here related to all of the public comment that we received today, but I need to pass that kudos over to Brenda Skiff. She did an amazing job. We got a lot of public comment. There was another board who also had some rules going on. So thank you to Ms. Skiff for getting all that ready and getting it prepared for the board's packet. Second, I just wanted to share timeframes that as I do with you guys, it is on our website. So for new applications and out-of-state applications, staff are working on October 28th date. And for upgrades and supervisor applications, they're working on November 3rd. As we've said before, if you applied after these dates, you probably have a deficiency. So go back, look at your email, and we would have sent you some information about that deficiency. You'll respond with the information on that contact us form with whatever your deficiency is so that staff can get that processed. So staff are continuing to work really hard and get that stuff done as quickly as possible, while again always following what the requirements are for board rules. I'm going to go back and share my screen real quick with you guys. Let's see. It's this one. Okay. All right. So can you guys see my screen? Awesome. Okay. So as Chair Hallbauer had noted, we have added that human trafficking FAQ section. So it is on all the board websites. So here's the main Bheck website. You go to any of the board websites for LPC. It is right here on the right hand side, human trafficking awareness FAQs. So please, everyone, thank you for bringing it to our attention at the conference. And that's what's great about being there. We can actually have that one-on-one communication with people and see what's going on and how we can make our websites or however, whatever the issues are, make them better for you all. So please go and check those out. Again, we also have the FAQs here that are just the basic ones. So anyone who has questions on how to get the scores or whatnot, you can do that. Fingerprinting, seems like we're starting to get on the right page on this for fingerprinting, but we have all this information here. So please refer to that for any questions. There was one more. Oh, I wanted to share with everyone related to past meetings. I know Daryl was talking about here a second ago, the past Bheck meeting. So on our website where it says meeting dates, agendas, and minutes, when you come here, you can actually access all of the past meetings on the council's YouTube channel. So this is another thing that Brenda does for us, and all of the past meetings are here for all of the boards as well as the council. So this is a good resource for people to be able to go back to. If you missed part of our meeting and you want to come and go back and listen to it, you can do that. Or if you missed the council meeting, you can always refer back to these meetings that are on the YouTube channel. If you have not already signed up for email updates, I had people at the conference, I had the computer there and they were signing up on site. So at the booth. So if you have not signed up for email updates, main website, it says email updates on the right hand side. Pass the word, any changes coming up, rules going on, public comment time, all that information is going to go out to you when you sign up the email updates. So that way you can stay in the know of everything that's going on, and you can sign up for the different professions as well on this website. So it's really good. So that's just a little bit about the about what's going on with the website itself. Let me get out of here. Sorry, guys. Let me see how to get back out of it. I might need you, Clint. Yeah. While we're working on that, just want to let you know that currently for enforcement compliance, we do currently have 29 cases that are being monitored at this time by staff. But again, as I had said earlier in the meeting, staff in all levels are continuing to work as hard as they can. Coming to Bheck has really given us the resources that we need to continue to do the work we need to do, and we'll continue. I see that we're going to continue to do improve along those lines as well. So that's all I have. I'm going to try to get out of the screen real quick. Oh, perfect. Thank you. I bet Daryl helped me.
Yeah.
Thanks, Daryl.
Use the hand of God, reach over there and do it.
I get
Yes.
credit for that. Thank you, Christina. Does anybody have any questions for her? I appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Let's move on to number 17, public comment.
Right. So first, I want to just note to the board members, you did receive an email just a little bit before the meeting. It was a written comment that was submitted that had at least 2,000 people who signed this particular written comment. So I just want to address that you guys do have that. You have been provided with that information. And then anyone who is, any attendees who are on the call that would like to provide public comment, please raise your hand in the Zoom function. At the end, I will go back to the phone numbers and see if those people also want to provide public comment. So at this time, go ahead.
3 minutes for public comment. Patrick, can you give a 30-second warning?
Perfect.
Sorry
Thank you.
about that.
No,
Didn't
that's
mean to
good.
interrupt.
That's okay. We're going to start with Miss Sandra Martin. Miss Martin, you're on mute. There you go.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This will be considered retro because it's about the relationship between supervisors and associates. It's really a word to the future. We really felt like we wanted to speak some words in the in-between time while we're beginning to learn how to do this. And so here we go. To the LPC supervisors, your load has been eased. Congratulations. You will no longer have full responsibility for the professional activity of the men and women you supervise. You will share responsibility with your associate only for clinical issues you know about or should have known about because of your oversight position. Separated from responsibility for the associate's business policies, practices, etc. However, that will not save you from a possible shadow cast on your agency or your personal reputation professionally if an associate should have some unfortunate business practices. However, a supervisor will not be forced to supervise anyone, so choice is on the table for you. To LPC associates with significant maturity and experience, many graduates of a professional counseling program come with a good amount of experience in business or ministry, or with a strong history of pastoral counseling. These men and women have life experience under their belts that will serve them well if they undertake the launch of a professional counseling career and a business at the same time. To these men and women, we say Godspeed. To those whose road to counseling has been primarily academic, you will be able to launch a counseling career at the same time you start a business, if you choose to do that, and you can do it all in one fell swoop. It may be good for you to know, however, that this one-time season as an associate is not so much about technique and orientation and book knowledge as it is about revealing and removing the many, many things, body, soul, and spirit, that get in the way of your long-term success as a fully licensed professional counselor. We wish us good fortune. It's a bad word for me to use, but we ask God's blessing rather on the future of this road we're taking together in a different way. And thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra.
Next person we have is Catherine Bacon.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
You're a little muffled.
I'm a little muffled. Let me try to adjust my audio. Is that better?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Now I can barely hear you. I'm do my. I had audio problems last time, so I appreciate your grace. I hope you can hear me okay still.
Yes.
All right. Good morning, board, and thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment. One of the last times I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to have a couple more shots at this with you guys. I am Dr. Catherine Bacon, your outgoing GCA appointed volunteer liaison. It was wonderful seeing the board members and staff in person who were able to recently attend the Texas Counseling Association's annual Professional Growth Conference. I have missed seeing you in person during COVID, and thank you for the efforts you made to be in Galveston and connect with our members, and then to advocate to Bheck to put out the FAQs on trafficking course requirements after hearing from our members during your presentation at the conference. Similarly, your thoughtfulness of all the agenda items today is greatly appreciated. I look forward to working on that essay for January. Thank you very much for that. Again, you're going to work me good before my tenure is done. Your commitment to being prepared so Texas can join the compact is encouraging. TCA also supports the compact and continues to advocate for sponsors and co-sponsors of that legislation. I'm going to be short today and yield the rest of my time to our incoming liaison, Angela Bulls, when you call on her. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bacon. Okay, and the next we have is Angela Bowles.
Good morning, board members. My name is Angela Bowles. I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor. And as Catherine Bacon said, the incoming TCA liaison, as Catherine Bacon will be taking over the TCA president-elect position. It was so nice to meet some of you last week at the TCA Professional Growth Conference. And I'm really looking forward to learning and growing in this position and appreciate your commitment to protect the public and engage with our members. I saw an example of that commitment today with your intentional diligence to develop a process for reviewing possible rule changes, particularly rules that have such significance as academic requirements. I would like to thank the board for taking time to work alongside stakeholders and hear concerns regarding rule changes about course content that could impede our ability to move forward with the compact. I am so encouraged to hear such supportive discussion from the board regarding the compact. As a military family member and having served as a military family life counselor, this is a concern near to my heart as well as my home in the greater Fort Hood area. I appreciate the hard work of our volunteer board members and respect the process. Thank you for allowing us to have a voice as we work together in service to our fellow Texans. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowles. Okay, the next person we have is Betty Dawson.
Can you hear me?
Okay, there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to explain, my name is Betty Dawson. I'm with the Texas Association of Psychological Associates. And I just wanted to explain that our concern leading to our petition for rulemaking is not the difference between counselor and psychological. Those two terms have been used in the mental health profession for years. I know sometimes there's confusion, but they're different words, different meanings, and we have no concern about that. Our concern is with the term associate, one word that has two very different meanings in this context. Using the term LPC associate makes it appear that it is parallel with licensed psychological associate, and that's really not the case. Licensed psychological associates are parallel with fully licensed LPCs. We've had years of experience. We work in independent practice, which is not the case with your LPC associates who are newly graduated and working under supervision. I believe that if your license were caught in the same kind of confusion, you would be asking for a rule change as well. And as evidence of that, I just like to say that, you know, you do call your early career LPCs a different name than LPC. So you all are making that difference in your own profession. So I thank you very much for your time. We continue to oppose this title change, but I do appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay, the next person we have is Mario de la Garza.
Good morning, board members and staff. My name is Mario de la Garza, and I serve as the liaison to the LPC board for the Texas Association for Counselor Education and Supervision. Thank you so much for the opportunity to provide public comment on behalf of TASIS. TASIS would like to thank Chair Haubauer for asking the Behavioral Health Executive Council to take no action on the proposed rule amendment regarding academic course content requirements to become a licensed professional counselor, and to send that proposed rule change back to the LPC board for further review. TASIS recognizes that there are concerns about the proposed rule change and the possible impacts that those changes may have, such as overburdening supervisors overseeing LPC associates and impacting the pass rates of individuals sitting for the National Counselor Examination and the National Clinical Mental Health Counseling Examination. TASIS regards the 8 core CACREP areas of study as minimal knowledge necessary to be an effective and competent counselor. Without essential knowledge in these core areas, future licensees may harm clients. We agree, we want therapists to be good rather than mediocre. We want quality counselors. TASIS regards keeping the academic requirements currently required for applicants who hold counseling-related degrees as the best way to do this. Individuals who hold counseling-related degrees should be looked at more closely because we want to be sure that they have this essential knowledge. TASIS supports efforts regarding Texas participating in the Interstate Counseling Compact, and this proposed rule change would hinder our state's participation. Thank you for working toward positioning Texas to be ready to join the Counseling Compact, which will help so many people, including military personnel and college students. TASIS is aware of individual efforts to let the board know of concerns that counselor educators and practitioners have about the proposed academic requirement changes, and we applaud those efforts. TASIS welcomes the opportunity to provide more information about academic requirements necessary to become a licensed professional counselor in Texas. We look forward to providing written comments and providing public comment in January at the Rules Committee meeting as board members reconsider this proposed rule change. Chair Haubauer, we will work on our essay. Thank you, Mr. Luna and staff for adding the human trafficking awareness FAQs on the board website.
30 seconds.
Yeah, we appreciate that work in making that process more understandable. We would like to thank board members and Mr. Luna for attending the TCA conference and providing an update to the members of TCA. We look forward to having you at the 2022 TASIS Midwinter Conference scheduled for February 23rd through 25th in Arlington, Texas. As always, thank you so much for your work. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Okay, next person we have is Carrie Proctor.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Carrie Proctor. I'm an LPC in Texas. This is my first time addressing the board, so please forgive me if I have a little bit of nervousness in my voice. I am honored to have witnessed some of the process that went on today, and I greatly appreciate the fact that you took the deliberate consideration to move the discussion on the academic standards to the Rules Committee and to be really deliberate and thoughtful in the implications that could come from weakening those standards. I was also heartened to hear the discussion of the support on the Interstate Compact. And I feel that the academic standards play into that, and that reciprocity between state licensure and the importance of that to help ensure that we have enough counselors in Texas and that we have enough quality counselors in Texas. And I think the Interstate Compact is part of that solution. So I wanted to thank you for your conversations today, for your work that you're putting in. I'm excited to see what comes out of Rules Committee. I hope that there's some LPC representation on that committee, because I think, the collective knowledge of our profession needs to be represented in that process. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next person we have is Diane Smiley.
Diane Smedley, that's okay. Can you hear me? No, you're good. Hello board. I'm an LPC. I'm also a doctoral candidate. And so I hope to have a long future ahead in counselor education. Rule changes are very near and dear, especially academic requirements. This is my first time addressing the board, so much like Carrie, I have a little nervousness, so please bear with me. First off, I want to thank you for your time and your service, board members, to our profession. I can't imagine the pressure experienced towing the line of public protection while maintaining efficiency. Thought it was great that Dr. Taylor brought up efficiency, because that is important. I was one of those licensees a while back who waited months on end to receive her LPC intern license. And so to see the changes over the years of how quickly the licensing employees now, along with Ms. DeLuna, process those licenses, those upgrades, so on and so forth, it's really a testament to the strides made by both the board and the staff over the years. And interestingly enough, all of that was done without reducing curriculum standards for any potential licensees. I chose to speak today because I am concerned with how the board approached those changes to academic requirements in particular. I watched that September 10th meeting live, and I was dismayed that the discussion that ensued amongst board members, where terms such as like solace were used and hoping that, this would be okay, these educational gaps, because we would push those onto supervisors. Board members stated that they felt comfortable pushing these gaps onto these already burdened supervisors. Supervisors are an increasingly scarce resource, and changes such as these are likely to grow that scarcity. Furthermore, the board still hasn't offered the number of licenses such a change would impact and the workload offset it would create for the licensing staff. I remember at that meeting, someone said, well, how many licenses are we talking about? And a number couldn't be given. So we're talking very vaguely about a pretty impactful change. Minimal curricular standards, they're not aspirational. Changes to academic requirements is significant to any licensing board, and yet it almost seemed like this was a haphazard approach to solving the problem. Minimal curricular standards serve as a foundation for novice counselors and protection to the public. Since that September 10th meeting, I have felt empowered to advocate and started asking any LPC supervisor, counselor, educator, anyone who was in the field where I live here in Houston. And I started asking how they felt about it. And as we've seen with the LPC associate change that independent business owners, professional counselors often have polarizing opinions on matters. However, everyone who I've spoken with are not in favor of those changes, which I know we bounced them back. And in fact, the only people I've seen in favor of it was that board meeting that day who voted in consideration of it. So I just want to close my statement with the fact that the purpose of the board is to promote the welfare of the public through assurance that the public can access qualified and competent professional counselors that adhere to those established professional standards. And it's concerning to me that the board has tipped the balance between public protection and efficiency to favor efficiency over public protection. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and it looks like the last person, unless more people raise their hand, is going to be Tom Kennedy.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say thank you to the board for all the good work. We really appreciate the board's look at the counseling compact. I am the ethics chair of the Christian Counselors of Texas. Sitting in and listening to all of the great things that you've done, we want to just say thank you for considering all of these things, and especially, as I said, the counseling compact. One of the things I would like to add to your summary is in the announcements, the Christian Counselors of Texas will have their annual meeting on February. Let me see, that's going to be the 10th through the 12th in 2022. And we would like to request that we be added to that announcement for the next meeting. Thank you very much and look forward to listening to you in January.
And there are no more phone calls on the line. Anyone else have public comment? If so, please raise your hand now, or we'll go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. I see no one else.
All right, thank you, Christina. Number 18, any items for consideration for future committee and board meeting agendas?
I think I already gave Christina the one for the human trafficking CE proposal, right, so we can count that. Right, do we have that?
Yes, that will be presented first to the Rules Committee.
Good, good, good.
Okay. Dr. Taylor, that was just how to get CE credit. Is that
well,
correct?
you know, the human trafficking thing is such a confusing issue because it's an order from the governor's office, right? That we have to do it, that we have to implement it. So it's like an added requirement. And what I propose we discuss at the rules meeting is to create a rule that allows for our licensees to count that course as a CE because they have to take it in addition to their other CEs. So it seems to me, you know, like a little unreasonable to say like we have to do 24 CEs plus another hour in human trafficking, you know. So we'll just discuss it and see. I mean, maybe that's not what we like. You know, that's the whole purpose of proposing rules, right? So we get feedback and discussion about it, so we can hear from others and see if that's the direction we should go in.
Okay, is rules the appropriate assignment to that? Should it be?
That's where it would need to originate. Yeah.
Because he wants to try and add it to our rules.
Okay.
So I've already passed it over to General Counsel. So it is something that's on the radar, and you know, hopefully we can have something ready for you all at the Rules Committee meeting. And if it is ready at that point, then we can bring it to the full board. Otherwise, it might make it to the next meeting, just depending on how quickly we get through the proposed language, if we decide to propose any.
Candidly, that may be something that the standardization committee needs to look at first.
Yeah, that's
just a heads up that way we don't have one board doing something and then three others doing something completely different.
Yeah, I agree, Daryl. I like it in the standardization committee for Bheck as well, and I'm happy to take a look at it there and draft something. But it should just be a really simple one line. You know, the human up to X CEs of human trafficking and count towards, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
I would assume that would be a pretty popular change.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't imagine who would object to it.
Yeah, I know, right?
There will be one commenter, though. I guarantee it.
Oh, there will be comments. Bring them on. I love the comments.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Anyone else? Anything to add? Future consideration, either the board or to our committees? Okay. Finally, number 19, I'll run down the items that I have. As Mr. Kennedy mentioned, Christian Counselors Association annual meeting. It's going to be February 10th through the 12th of next year. Our next full board meeting ends up right in the middle of that on the 11th of next year. Mario mentioned the TASIS conference. We now have the dates for that. It's the 23rd through the 25th, and it'll be in Arlington. And not sure what the AASCB virtual conference is.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys need to be on that or not. I don't know why I added it.
Oh, okay.
Maybe just for me.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to add? Announcements or comments? Future meetings?
Just have a happy New Year, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, I guess. I don't think we don't have any meetings until then, right?
Is there, when's our next Bheck?
January.
February 1st.
February 1st.
February 1st, okay.
Well, I mean, our next LPC board meeting is February, so that's 22. So hope everybody's coming to the Christmas party. There's no Christmas party.
All right. Anyone else, anything to add? Janie, please feel better. Thank you for sticking that out.
Thank you, Chair Harbauer.
I was gonna say, Janie, you're a real trooper. I've had that sinus infection and it's tough. And happy holidays and safe travels to everyone.
Yeah. Hey, can we do a white elephant? We can do like a Zoom meeting.
Where we open
We do
our
like white elephants, like mail them to each other in advance.
Oh, that's considered a walking quorum. I don't think you can do that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Ugly Christmas sweaters then for everybody.
I'd like to say to all of you that I appreciate the work that all of you do. It's so informative every time we meet. Y'all just kind of blow my mind with the knowledge that you possess of people and situations. And I want you to know that through this holiday season, I'll be praying for all of you because you have families too. And in the midst of your pouring life into other people, sometimes we get left out and there's not many people who pour life into us. So I want you to know that I care about who you are, what you do, and that I'm praying for you and your families.
Thank you, Pastor Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
All right, last item, I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor, in a second. Thank you, Dr. Amuna. Thanks, everybody. Great meeting. Let's keep up the good work. All in favor? Have a happy holidays and be safe.
See you in
Bye.
22.